We're back. I like this hook. You got a book you want to tell us about? Well, let's talk. There's no other place to do it. Only on Catch Da Craze. Catch Da Craze.
Welcome to Catch Da Craze Podcast Audio Mix. I am your host with the most, Sam the Crazy Man Vera, and I'm with
George Medina. No. George Medina. No. I get an A for effort. Listen, is that an E for effort?
That's an E for
Whatever. Listen, I'm telling you, I gotta try. I gotta try different things. I'm very stressed out about this. I don't sleep at night thinking, how am I gonna do this? No, you don't believe that?
Yo, you're from Ecuador,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
The Hispanic culture. There's supposed to be some like dynamic salsa in your heritage.
I think that's false. I think that's false.
Stereotypical?
I think that what you're saying is that because I'm Hispanic,
Yes.
I should be loud and boisterous.
Yes.
No, that's not true.
No?
That's not true. No, not at all. I know plenty of people who.
I see loud and boisterous. They said so. Put some rhythm in it. I see.
Oh, you want me to get up and dance as I say my name?
That's right.
All right, yeah. We'll try that one in the next one. We'll do that one in the next one.
yeah.
I'll work on some stuff.
Yeah. So, welcome to Catch Da Craze. This is episode, I think, 153.
154, I believe.
154. See that?
Yeah.
Look at that.
153 was last week, Mr. Jake Estrada.
Jake Estrada, and we have a special guest on today. Who's that?
His name is Michael Grassia. He's a cartoonist. And he has worked. He's actually an animator, so he's done a lot of work. In the past, I would say about 20 years since he started. He started very young. He started at the age of 18, dude.
18.
18 was his first gig, professional gig. 18 years old. So yeah, so he's got a lot of years in the industry,
Right.
and so yeah, we'll talk about that. We'll take you on his journey, and that should be very fun.
That's pretty cool. And today, we prior to our special guest calling in, what are we talking about? Mr. Medina?
We like to shoot the ish a little bit right before we get our guests on the show. I figured today, we'd start talking about something that I think a lot of artists fall victim to, and that is the fear of failure. The fear of not making it out there,
Of failure, yes.
Right. Or putting something that's whack, that's no good, that people are not going to like. What are they going to say? Some people don't have that problem. Some people just put it out and who cares? But some people, some artists, I think, have those trepidations, and they fall back a little bit when it's time to put their stuff out.
Right.
But yeah, have you ever encountered fear of failure, Sam?
I think we all do.
Right.
I think failing is at the top of everybody's list, right? Because anytime you want to just take on any kind of endeavor, fear of failure is a byproduct of conforming as you age.
Conforming as you age.
Right.
Break that down a little further,
Right,
Sam. You look at you.
right.
You
So-
paused, and then you just dropping. Go ahead. What do you got?
I had to think for a minute. I had to spit some knowledge, right?
Spit that
Right?
knowledge, dude.
So, this is what happens. But why, mommy? Remember when you were a child? Why can't I play with fire, mommy? Why can't I play with knives, mommy? Why can't I cross the street with oncoming traffic, mommy? There was no fear, right? You were just inquisitive. You wanted to learn. You wanted to try. You wanted to just live. As you enter society, starting with elementary school, you cannot speak unless spoken to. You will not be spoken to unless you raise your hand in silence. You have to sit up straight. You have to make sure you look the part, right? Crossing the green, not in between. Risk taking goes out the door, and fitting in becomes the priority. So what happens? You start fitting in, you lose a sense of identity. You lose that willingness to just say, what can go wrong? Let me walk into. There's smoke coming under that door. What'll happen if I open up that door? You don't know if they're blazing fire or just someone just puffing the magic dragon. You have to open a door. So I think that's what it is. I think what happens is as we get older, we become more fearful because there's so much to lose. Every time you add something to that list, well, I don't want to lose what I have. I don't want to lose that relationship. Or I don't want to lose. I can't afford to. I can't lose that money. I got to pay the rent. So as that list grows, the willingness to try to go and take on something different becomes that much more difficult, limited. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think it does to a certain extent to me. I think that you're right. Like when you're a kid, when you're a babe, like when you're a little toddler, you just know that you're just gonna get up and you're gonna walk, and if you fall, you fall, but you don't have the fear of doing anything until something bad happens to you. I think that's part of it. I think that you don't have fear in you until you actually fail. But then I think it becomes a thing of like, okay, am I gonna now overcome this fear, or am I gonna succumb to this fear? I don't know that, because you said something that was very interesting. You said, "Mommy, can I?" Right? Like, "Mommy, can I? Is it okay if I?" And your mom may say, "Go," but if you get hurt, that's up to you how you're gonna react to that failure. Right. You know what I mean?
Right. And I think someone like me who learned the hard way.
Yeah.
Well, I really didn't learn jack, right? So what happens is I have one knee. I have 3 scars on one knee because I kept trying. I said, I fell. I busted my hip. I got stitches. I almost broke my leg. Why did I fall? Let me try it differently. And I went and tried it again. Boom. Same damn knee.
What were you trying to
do? I was building the biggest ramp I can build.
Okay.
Creating the biggest fire I can make
right
at the bottom of a hill. So I would go on the top of the hill, and at the bottom of the hill would be a ramp.
Boom.
And there'd be a big bonfire in the center. I want to see how high I could jump.
Right. So you knew the risk.
Yes.
You knew the risk.
Yes.
But the passion was so strong
I need to prove
that
point.
No matter how hard it was, you were going to do it. So fear went out the window because there was that passion. Yes. And I think that's a very good analogy. I was going to use a sport analogy, but that's good. That's Jesus Christ. No, you're right. And I think it comes back to, it goes to the passion.
Yes.
How badly do you want it? You're going to fail. You're going to fall. But is the fear stronger than the passion? Because if the fear is stronger than the passion,
all depends on risk versus reward. So that's what happens. We're subconsciously we're doing a SWOT analysis, right? Strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, right? So it's like a risk versus reward. Mm-hmm. What am I going to get from this, and what am I risking?
Right.
So that, I think, subconsciously we're doing that math in our head,
that keeps
and we're
you
saying
back.
Yes.
That keeps. So when you have nothing to lose,
right,
it's easier to go out there and just do what you got to do. The more you have to lose, the less you're going to take that risk,
right? Because
the reward doesn't seem to be. Well, see, and that's the thing. See, that's where, like, it's kind of like, all right, so if the reward, okay, for example, if being a successful artist, writer of a comic book, and the reward is being Todd McFarlane, 301 comics, world record, if that's the end result, fame, the fortune, and all that other stuff, is it worth, possibly being homeless or losing your family or losing, that's what I'm saying. Like, is that reward worth more than all of that? Even though you have all those things, should the fear take over and say, no, you shouldn't do that? Because the reward at that point becomes a great reward, no?
I'll give you a perfect. I think you have to know your limitations. That's the key. Like, for an example, like, I had an opportunity. My goal was going to the service, special forces, Treasury Department, be the guy that saves the president. That was my goal, right?
You want to be like a Secret Service guy?
Yes, that was my goal, right? But when I fell in love, I said I can't do it because I needed to be all in, and I couldn't be thinking about somebody because it creates weakness. And that's my perspective, and there's a lot of people that don't agree with me, but I believe that if you're going to go in deep cover, if you're going to go in doing anything where you don't want to have any liabilities or have anybody use something as advantage against
Yeah,
you.
yeah, of
You know what I'm
course,
saying?
of course.
That's how people get turned.
Yeah.
So for me, I can't be in love.
Can't have ties
and
to
do
anything.
Into anything.
Anybody.
You know?
Nobody.
And that's how I approach it.
It makes
So
sense.
I
though.
looked at risk versus reward, right? If I went in love, I'm not good because I'm thinking about this, or I'm gonna get a call, hey, I miss you, and all that stuff, and you're gonna start feeling guilty about. You can't commit 100%. Next, you know you're at a desk and you're typing memos, right? That's not what I wanted to do, right? So I think, on the flip side of it, when I think of Steve Harvey, right, living in a car, bathing in a hotel bathrooms, right? He was taking taking all the washcloths and washing his body, right, drying himself up, and going out there and trying to make his passion a reality. He had nothing to lose, so he's willing to do whatever it took. I think what happens is the reason why fear becomes so significant is because we look at what we have to lose.
Yeah.
I think time is the biggest commodity that we can never get back. And if you don't make the attempt, you're never going to get that back. We had that conversation yesterday. It's like, man, if I didn't stop for those 10 years, what would have been, what could have been?
Yeah.
Good, but I made a conscious decision to stop.
Well, that was the thing. You had to make a decision. And I get that. And then there's the other side of that, right? Sometimes the fear of failure makes you successful. So I'll give you an example. You talked about Steve Harvey. There's a story. I don't know if it was one of the Wayans. I don't know. I think it was Keenan. I think it was Keenan Ivory Wayans.
Mm-hmm.
He said he was going to school to be like an engineer or something. Right. And his dad said, "Listen, son," but he wanted to be a comedian. Like he wanted to be a writer, comedian. He wanted to be in Hollywood. And he said to his dad, "Dad, I'm gonna drop out of school." And his dad said, "Son, listen, you're a very smart man. Why don't you go to school, get this engineering degree, okay? And then that way, if then go pursue your passion. Right. And if that doesn't work out, at least you have this thing to fall back on." And he said, "Dad, that's what's gonna make me fail. See, if I know that even if I don't do this, I'll always have that safety net of the engineering degree. I'm never going to go 100%. Right. But if I know that if I fail here, I fall and I fall hard, I'm going to do whatever it takes not to fail." Right. And so his fear of failure made him successful because there was nothing else to fall back on. Right. And sometimes we do have that. We do have that backup plan. Like, if the case this doesn't work out, I'm going to have this. And it works sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't. In a perfect world, that's a great story, and you hope it works for everybody. But
that's the part.
Yeah.
It's I think I say it. It's like you're either all in or you're not, and it's unfortunate. I think you have to commit 100%, and that means, sometimes losing sleep. So that means not being able to go to that party with your friends. That means that your wife might have to go home for the holidays without you if you're in a relationship. If you need to put into work, I think it's hard, and it's case by case. I think the individual has to say to themselves, what am I? Not ask what am I? What will I lose? It's what can I gain from this? And it's flipping the script on it, right? So if you change the perspective and say, hey, if I did this, what will I gain? And in order to gain it, what needs to happen along the way? And to make that happen, what do I need to sacrifice? And those are the questions.
But you know what's crazy about that too? What you end up having to be is a great salesman of that dream to the person you're with in that relationship. You have to have that conversation. If you're in a relationship, you have to have that conversation with that person that you're with and say, "Hey, listen, this is what it is," and sell that pitch to that person, have them understand, and then you can move forward. Because if they're not on that same page, then you have to be selfish in a way and say, "You know what? Then I got to do what I got to do, and this isn't going to work out."
Right.
And those decisions are tough, especially when you're like in love, or like if you're young and it's like your first love, and you're like, you may say, "I can't do. I got to be with this person," and you give all of that up.
Right.
Or, there's that other side where you're like, after that, I'm going after my dream. So sometimes you got to be. It's like you're right. You either be that great salesman that sells that pitch to that person. That person is all in and says, "Okay, let's do it," or you say, I gotta do for me, and see you later. I'm sorry.
And you know what? And I'm gonna talk from first perspective. I think one of the challenges that I had was back when at the peak of Crazy Comics, I was funding it, and my wife was like, "Look,
You're making it rain, kid. You were like,
you're in the red.
all
You've been in the
day.
red. We can't keep funding this and taking care of the home. You have to pick one." And that was the hardest thing for me to deal with because I was at I felt I was at that turning point. Like one more year would have been that push. But I loved her, and I was like, look, I gave it up. So got our finances in order, bought the house, the 2 cars, stability, and I was like, look, there's a niche. And the last thing I want is to be able to leave this planet and say, what would have happened? I could have been a contender. I could have been a somebody, right? So we sat there, we talked, and she said, go for it. And I said, I got your blessing. She said, yep. I just got smarter about what I'm doing. And
well, I'm trying to interrupt, but real quick. So was there something in her? Did she see something in you that was maybe missing, that she maybe thought to herself, dude, like maybe he needs this for himself? Like, was that something that you guys had that conversation and she just said, you know what, I think you need this?
I think what happens is my office became a trophy room. I was never in it. So we moved into the house. I got everything. I got all the rooms set, and then I saved this room for last. And then I built the office, and it was just a trophy room. I never worked in it. Didn't do anything in it. And she's like, "How come you?" I said, "Because and if for those of you who are in relationships who can relate, the office was a symbol of resentment of the old ways where I was always on the road. I was always at conventions. I was always locked up. I used to work till 3 a.m. I was behind that computer. I was on the draft table. And so for her, it was, you love that more than you love me. So whenever I walked into the office, it became a reason to have a dispute, right? And so she didn't realize it because it's subconscious, right? It's almost like that family member that you don't see, but when they show up, it brings back those emotions of why you don't want to be around that family member. So the office was that symbol for.
So you were resentful. Or she was resentful.
I think she was resentful.
She was resentful.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we had to get those things. So I needed to create a safe zone. I had to make sure that she felt we were good, we were stable, everything was good, and I can move forward. And once she realized, because she was right. I was losing money. It was just going out the door, and there was no return on the investment. And once the WB changed hands, that was out there. So once it happened around that period when things, it's like, well, you don't have that deal, so you need to figure it out. And so she knew, because in the back of I always had a sketch pad with me, and I would always doodle. And I just said, look, I said, we're good now. I said, I need your support 100%. And she said, go for it. And she goes, you have my blessing. I'm not going to get in your way. I want you to follow your passion. And I'm like, all right. It was almost like when Adrian showed up in Russia, in Moscow, when Brocky thought he was alone, right? And she showed up, and he was like, she goes, go get him. And I was like, yes.
So did you have that moment where she's at the stair and she's like, you see him, you see how strong he is? Yeah. You can't win. Yes. You had that moment.
That was that moment.
That was that moment
days.
before.
Yeah, you just can't do it. And so I think, just having that support, and I was like, all right, now I'm all in. And so, how do I take this but get better? How do I go out there and use what the lessons learned? But that's reality. I wasn't fearful. I was fearful of losing stability at home.
Yeah.
I wasn't fearful because I was willing to try anything. And I think that's the key.
Right. So you weren't, see, in your case, you weren't afraid of failing at this. You were afraid of failing at marriage or at family. That's that was your fear there.
I'll go out there and fail 100 times. I don't care.
This thing, yeah. And if you were by yourself, you probably would have done more. You probably would have not taken off those 10 years.
Yeah, I think about that all the time. But then I say, you know what? All right, how do I amplify it? How do I take those 10 years and fast forward and catch up in 2? Right? And what I mean is making sure that the product is tight, making sure that the show is tight, making sure that everything I do, I'm very critical of it. But I don't think I've ever been afraid to fail. I've been afraid.
You've been cautious.
I've been afraid to embarrass myself.
Oh, really?
I was like, oh, Sam, don't embarrass yourself. But then sometimes when I just become me, I'm like, forget about it. It's on. But for people who are afraid to fail, I think you just have to just say to yourself, are you comfortable looking yourself in the eye? Are you willing to... Here's what I say. If you have kids, don't preach to your kids if you're not willing to do the same thing. You know, and I think that was that my mom, the reason why I was never fearful is because my mom always said, go out there. The world is your oyster, go and play. And so, and this is a woman who came from an abusive background, and she wasn't allowed to grow or play. So
she didn't want that for you. She wanted something different for you.
Yes. She said, go out there, go play, try. So, I mean, that's why I did rap music, you know, I did pop music, you know.
You did pop music, bro?
Yeah, I was club music.
Oh, I was going to say, you were out there.
I was a break dancer. I I did everything, and it was like, whatever. If I had a skill, let me try it. You know, can this work out? But not everybody's built that way. So my recommend is just ask yourself, if I don't, will I be happy? Right. It's chasing happiness. If taking the risk means chasing happiness, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, yeah, absolutely. I think if you're out there and if you have a dream and you want to do it, I mean, it's never too late, right? So if you're young or old or whatever, it doesn't matter. And, you know, we sound like, you know, we're preaching over here, but we're not. We're like, I guess part of it too is that we've felt those things before. But and again, I go back to, I think that if you're passionate enough about it, I think that sometimes that fear overtakes all of that. And it's almost like that kid, like you said, that was building that ramp. That would not give up on that ramp until I made it, despite the fact that you were going to get scarred. And, you know, I love playing basketball, right? I don't play as much anymore because, you know, whatever. But I messed up my knee when I was like 28. I messed up my knee. Boom. Had a medial meniscus tear. But 6 months later, I was back. I knew what that pain was like because that was painful as hell. But I was back on the court playing again because I liked doing that. So that's the thing. It's like no matter what. And then I heard it again. And 6 months later, I was back. And it's like, don't you learn, bro? Like, you don't. Like, when you love something, you don't learn. Yes. You don't.
And you don't even have to love it.
You just keep going.
I think it's not just about that. You know, even like, you know, I go back to when I was a kid. You know, we hung out in the projects. And, you know, we used to jump from building to building to see if we could make it. Not even thinking about what happens if you fall. Now, I fell off.
Is this part of? Wait, hold on. Before you start, we're gonna need a little sounder for Sammy's wild stories, because it sounds like this is another one of those.
This is what I'm saying.
Okay, go for it.
We used to jump from building to building.
Yes.
And the project, just to see if we could make it. And it was this 3-story building, and we were trying to climb the building. And we're trying to climb.
Climb the building, like Spider-Man climb. Like, yeah, what do you mean climb?
You know how sometimes the brick walls
bricks
have
are sticking
these
out a little bit.
So we're trying to climb it, right? Okay. So I'm getting to the top, and I missed. And next, you know, right, boom. All I know is that as I'm falling, I see my friends looking down at me.
Wait, they had already made it up.
They made it up. They made it up. We were daredevils, and so they looking down, and I'm like, and I just saw, I'm like, this is crazy. Poof, I'm out. Thank goodness a pile of garbage broke my fall, but I was buried under the... They thought I was dead. So I can...
How far was the fall, dude? Like
3 stories.
You climbed 3 stories?
Yes. And,
wow.
And so...
Holy cow.
And so I could hear... Because as I'm going, like, he's dead. And that's why I hear it. I'm like dizzy. And my friend Angel found me. He, you know, took all the trash and found me at the bottom or whatever. We still went back and did it again. It was fun. We laughed about it, you know. And I think it's crazy. Don't climb sides of buildings. Don't jump building to building. I'm not recommending it. Yeah. All right. So we're not condoning it. That was, you know, that's where we grew up. That's what we had to do. Spend the time. But because I survived, I was like, all right, let's try it again. I think that was, you know, I was like, I'm not gonna fall the next time. I made it the second time. But I think it's and those are just crazy.
But the thing is, how bad did you want to get up there?
I couldn't let them get up there.
Exactly. That was the drive. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Maybe it's not so much about the love. Maybe love is the wrong word. But how bad
How
do
bad
you
do you
want to
want
get
it?
it out there? Like, all right, they got out there. I got to get out there. Like how, because if you don't want it, you don't. Like if you learn how to ride a bike, you fall off a bike and you don't care about riding a bike again
Yes.
ever.
Yes.
I gotta get back on that bike. I don't give a
Yes.
crap about that bike. But if you really wanted to get up there, you're gonna do whatever it took to get up there. You know what I mean? But
Right.
so I think part of that is that. Yeah, of course. Absolutely.
Yeah. So there's what's his name?
What are you Googling?
I need his name.
Was he a motivational speaker?
Yeah. It's a motivational speaker. Give me his dang name.
Okay.
Anyway, he has this thing where Eric Thomas. All right, cool. Sorry, guys. I had to find his name. So Eric Thomas is a motivational speaker. He tells this story about this guy. He wanted to be successful. He wanted to be rich. Wanted to make money, just like this guru. So he goes to the guru, meets the guru at the beach, and he goes, I want to be successful. I want to be. No, he says, if you want to be successful, meet me tomorrow at the beach. He goes, why at the beach? He goes, you want to be successful? Yes, meet me at the beach. So he meets him at the beach. He's in a suit, right? So he thinks for an interview. The guru says, follow me into the water. What do you mean follow you into the water, right? You're crazy, right? So who would follow somebody in the water? He's in a suit. Because I thought you said you wanted to be successful. I do. I thought you want to do anything. Yes, sure. All right, so he goes. So now he's waist high. He goes, all right, follow me further. What do you mean follow you further? So he takes me further out into the ocean, right? So he's there shoulder length, and the guru shakes his head and dunks him under and holds him under the water. And the guy's struggling, trying to get up. And then finally he lets him go. He comes up. He goes, what's the one thing you were thinking about? He says, I want to breathe. He goes, if you want to succeed as much as you want to breathe, then you know what you need to do. And I thought that was the greatest analogy, right? If you really want it, it's possible. Look at how many people give their lives to make it to the U.S. to achieve their dreams. And how many people don't take advantage of the things we have in the U.S., right? So I think it's just the limitations are your own. It's the wall that you put up for yourself, and I believe that 100%. And I think if you just commit anything, it's not going to be overnight. Right? And there's no such thing as an overnight success. For anybody out there, no such thing. Everybody's put into work. Everybody's had to hustle. Everybody grinded. You just have to put into work.
Yeah.
And it's what are you willing to do? Right.
I mean, yeah, I think that it's almost like that we were talking about that scene in Rocky, right? He talks about Freddy Fear. Like you have to learn how to control it. I think that we're all gonna have those fears. It's human nature to be afraid of things. It starts when we're little kids and we fall for the first time and we're like, "Ooh, that hurt. I don't want to fall again." So it starts from when we're very little. But I think that as we get older, we have to learn how to control it rather than let us control us. Yeah. And I think that's the bottom line. You have to control that thing because it's gonna be there. You just got to learn how to control it.
Yes, and I think that's the critical part. Is fear is this obstacle that we create for ourselves. And it's because we like to make ourselves believe that there's too much to lose, so I'm just going to walk this road. Right? Create your own path. Get off the road. Go through the woods.
Go through the woods.
You're gonna count a couple of wolves, some rattlesnakes,
take
whatever.
the road that's taken.
Right? Take the road
all those
not
things.
taken.
All those things.
Take the road not taken. I always say it to my team in my real world
9
job.
9 to 5.
Working 9 to 5. Sam has to go and make the money. If he doesn't, then he is not gonna get any honey. Wow. So anyway,
4 minutes till our guest, by the way, guys.
That's the stuff that makes George uncomfortable. Say the crazy man Vera. Hence
crazy.
No,
do it. Go for it, bro. I wish you would do a little bit more of that.
Yes, I know, right?
Get crazy.
Hey.
So go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah, 9 to 5. You tell your team. What do you tell your team?
I tell them. I said, don't follow trends. Be a trendsetter. Don't be afraid to take risks. Don't ask for permission. Just say, oops, I didn't know. I don't even ask for forgiveness. So I don't even believe in that whole mythology. I believe in taking the risk. As long as...
the caveat.
As long as your intent was pure and your commitment was 100, why do you need to ask for forgiveness? Right? The whole motivation, the whole intent is to have a better outcome. What am I apologizing for?
I mean, yeah, I guess to a certain extent.
It's too late to apologize.
Wow. All right.
It's too late. So we're going to be
Good segment. Good segment.
Who's our guest that's coming up?
Michael Grassia.
Oh man.
Yeah, Mike. Yeah, he's gonna be calling in a few minutes. But yeah, no, good
That's
conversation.
a good conversation.
Good conversation.
What are your thoughts out
It
there?
got deep. Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
What's your biggest fear?
What is your biggest fear? Yes.
Yeah, what's your biggest fear?
Do you need a hug?
Not from that guy. Well, not from you.
He said no. He's got a man bun.
That dude wants to hug me. Oh, I can't believe you jumped. I mean, you climbed buildings. That's
If you
great.
don't have to, my mom.
No, I'm saying, listen, save it. We got plenty of every night. You got to come in here. You got all these every night. I'm telling you, Sammy's Wild World of Stories. Every night you come in here, you're gonna tell us a story.
Yes, here's his story.
Absolutely.
Of a guy named Sammy.
Wow. Woo. Oh man.
Remember when we used to do the book show?
With Sam, I mean with Jonathan, right?
Yes, I picked up the books that I like to read. My fans all know me as Mr. Crazy.
Wow.
Remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that. How many of those shows did you guys do? You didn't do too many, right? He used to come in here.
We did Books with John.
Books.
Yeah, books.
Yeah, this whole get up.
Yeah, what was it?
See, you know the thing about John.
These books.
So John was a guy. For people who don't know, Jonathan Syfax is the dude that used to work with us. He, at Crazy Comics, and they had a segment on the first incarnation of Catch Da Craze, and it was called Books with Syfax, right, or something like that.
Books with John.
Books with John, where he would go in there and he would talk about a book that he read, and he'd give you his whole spiel about what it was. It was his critique.
Yes.
But he'd dress up like in these crazy outfits and just sit there and talk for hours about these books. And you did how many shows?
Books with John?
Yeah.
I forgot. I think 4.
You had a whole intro.
We had
music.
we had like a Caribbean themed intro.
Yeah.
Booyaka, booyaka, remember?
You guys are funny. Man. Very, very funny.
Yeah, and then we had the rap battle with Lyrical Styley.
Lyrical, yes.
Lyrical Styley.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh man, the good old days.
Yes, those were some crazy times. Yes.
Oh my God. So no, but at the end of the show, also there we go. Wait, I just got cut off. Here we go.
Hello. Welcome to Catch Da Craze.
Hello,
And who do we have the pleasure of speaking with?
this is Michael Grassia.
Michael, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Doing good. How are you guys?
Good. That's Sam that picked up the phone. You know me. I'm
Hi,
George.
Sam. Yep. How you doing?
Good, man.
Well, Michael, gracias for coming on the show.
So what's going on, Michael? How's everything?
Everything's going pretty well. I mean, I'm dealing with a little bit of a cold right now, so if I sound a little nasally, I apologize.
Nah, no worries. It's that season. It's about to get going.
Yeah.
But good, man. I'm glad you were able to come on the show. I definitely want the audience to get to know Michael Grassia. So I'm gonna ask you a few questions about how you came up into the art world, and I know that you started your career at the age of 18. I was telling Sam that earlier, and we were like, "Holy cow, 18 years old!" So tell us a little bit about where you grew up and what led to that first gig.
Well, I grew up in Mahopac, New York, which is about an hour and a half north of New York City.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Mahopac schools. But I've been drawing since I can hold a pencil. That's always what my parents said. So basically around 2 years old, I became serious about what I wanted to do for a living at probably 8 years old, like second grade. I spent a lot of my time alone. I grew up with some medical issues, and I couldn't play sports a lot of times. So drawing was my go-to thing.
Did you like sports? Was it like something that like kind of like you like? Damn.
I like to play sports. I didn't like watching them. To this day, I still can't watch sports. I understand the rules.
Right.
But I'm just not a sports fan. If I was playing them,
right,
I found them fun.
Right. Okay.
But if I never saw the point in sports as just to sit and watch.
Right.
I have a whole family who loves it.
Right.
It's just just not me.
Gotcha.
but I drew, and not that I didn't have friends, but as a kid I was bullied a bit. I think some of it was because I didn't play sports. I didn't participate in what all the other kids were doing usually.
Right.
I was shy by nature. I'm an introvert by nature. So I grew up, bullied here and there, and the big time with the bullying came I don't want to say big time, but this is where the moment I decided that I was it was my 8th birthday party. I guess, like I said, I was 2nd grade, and I had a sleepover, and my parents let me rent some movies and some cartoons to watch with my friends. And I remember I rented the Filmation Zorro cartoon series. I don't know if you guys remember that, but
So
I'm
do you
a
remember
huge
that?
Zorro fan.
Do you remember that, Sam? Zorro?
Zorro, yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I'm a huge Zorro fan to this day.
Cool.
And I remember playing it, and I was super excited to share it with my friends because nobody really watched it that I knew.
Right.
It was one of those like really early cartoons, either on Saturday morning or on weekdays, because it was made years before, and it was like just in reruns.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
No, they were the best. I was gonna say those were the best. Saturday morning
I
cartoons.
love-
Forget about it, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they were fantastic.
So go
And
ahead.
I remember getting Zorro on, and my friends just ripped it apart.
Wow.
They made fun of it, made fun of me for liking Zorro.
Jeez.
And I remember going upstairs to my parents' room crying and saying, I want my friends to go home. I don't want them here. They're making fun of stuff. And they were like, they saw I was upset, but I don't think they kind of took it as serious, thinking, hey, it's just friends joking around type
Right.
of thing. 'Cause that's
He'll
what
get
friends
over
do.
it. Yeah, it's no big deal.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was just angry at them. And I'm like, I thought friends shouldn't treat other friends this way.
Right.
So that's when I started like distancing myself from people, like, of certain friends of mine. But I had to be with them because I was at school. I was invited to birthday parties with classes being invited, and we were in Cub Scouts together, the whole thing. I grew up with these kids.
Right.
So I spent a lot of time with these people who I just really wasn't a fan of because of what happened at that birthday. But that was when I was like, I don't need these people. I love this world of make-believe that I get to live in.
Right.
When I draw, when I watch cartoons, when I read comics, all that stuff. So I just started really honing my craft. When I was about, I think, 10 years old, I got my first how to draw cartoon book. And I would read it and learn from that. But before that, I would record cartoons on my VHS, and I'd play them back, and I'd pause a frame and on the screen, and I would draw what I saw, or I'd draw out of comic strips and whatever. I loved animation so much, which is to this day still one of my passions. I don't get to do it as much as I'd like, but I used to play them back in slow motion on the VHS and see if I could figure out how people animate it. And then I would make these really, really terrible flip books of Voltron and
flip books. I used to love flip books, man. Like that was great.
Oh, they're fun to make. I still make them. I still teach kids how to make them. And when I do them, they have a blast. But yeah, that was like the start of my journey of really honing my craft.
So this was back in the 80s, right, Mike? So like this was back like about 85, 86 maybe you're talking about?
I was born in 76. So about what that 84 maybe?
84, right. So you had
if we do the math.
Yeah. So around that time you had like the cartoons that were out there. I mean, from what I remember, like the He-Man cartoons but you were more into like the old school cartoons, right? Like the older cartoons.
I watched everything.
Right.
I grew up, Looney Tunes, Woody Woodpecker, Popeye, huge Hanna-Barbera fan, Magilla Gorilla, Yogi Bear, Ricochet Rabbit. I loved all that stuff.
Ping, ping, ping.
Yeah, exactly. I loved. I even loved the Hanna-Barbera superheroes that they did, Space Ghost and Birdman, and all those. Mighty Mightor was like my favorite, along with Frankenstein Jr. and the Impossibles. And I have them all on DVD, so I get to watch them whenever I want now.
George is gonna hate me for this, but I have to do it.
What?
Hey, Mr. Ricochet.
What the? Oh,
I had
Sam.
to do it.
Sam is good. He loves just interjecting out of nowhere, just with random
that's
stuff.
quite okay. Quite okay.
You started it. I'm just saying.
So Mike, so I like the fact that you took that that whole bullying incident and what you encountered there, and you turned it into something positive. You said, you know what, these kids are not gonna stop me. That just drove you to just be a better artist. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna be an animator. I'm gonna create my own cartoons, and I'm gonna forget those kids. And I think that takes a lot of courage, man, especially at that age.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no, that's amazing, dude. And if anybody's listening who's going through that kind of stuff, that's what you have to do. You kind of have to take that and say, you know what? No, these kids are not going to stop me from doing what I love to do, and this is where I'm going with it. And so then that drove you, and you said around 10 years old, you started doing your own thing. Now, did you get any formal education in art? Like, did you go to like an art school at that point? Or?
Well, I did some after school programs, local stuff. There was a guy who lived in Yorktown, I remember, and when I was about 13, I think, he had classes out of his basement, so he would, I wanted to learn how to cartoon, so he taught me how to make comic strips. I remember there was a girl there who just wanted to paint, and there was another kid there that just loved to work in colored pencil, I think it was, or marker, one of the two.
Right.
And he worked with each kid individually. And I went to him it wasn't a long time, but I went to him for a few months. And I don't remember why it stopped now. I mean, it might have been just scheduling or something.
Right.
But I do remember learning a lot from him. I still have my very first comic I ever drew that he taught me.
That's great.
Yeah, it was a story that I wrote with my cousin helped me come up with the characters, but I wrote the story that I wanted to, make like my own Avengers team or Fantastic Four type of team, and that was like my first strip, like their part one of their origin story.
That's great. Was it done in like did you fold like a piece of paper in half and like drew it on the piece of paper, or like what does it look like?
Oh no, he gave me a huge piece of oak tag, maybe like poster size, like maybe 24 by 36.
Wow.
And I'd have to measure it, but it was definitely a large piece. And he taught me how to measure out the panels and all this, all the stuff, how to measure out gutter space.
Right.
And he taught me what gutter space at that time. I didn't know the terminology.
Right. Yeah.
So I learned a lot from him with that, and he was a fantastic illustrator. I remember he did some comics on his throughout the years of his career.
Right.
I wish I could remember his name. He was a really nice guy. I do remember that.
Yeah.
When I got into the college time though, I did get to study under Tom Gill, who was known for drawing the Lone Ranger comic book. Anything that had horses, westerns back in the 50s, 60s, 70s was a Tom Gill.
Right.
And I also got to study under Richard Rockwell, who was Norman Rockwell's nephew.
Wow.
And he was working at FIT teaching, but I was at a different school, and they brought him in to work with me. So amazing. I got some really good training, and in the comic world, Rockwell's best known for working on the Steve Canyon comic strip. After Milt Caniff, I think was the artist. I'm blanking on, but I think it was Milt Caniff did Steve Canyon. When he passed away, Richard Rockwell just finished the storyline for the year, and then they retired the strip.
And then, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So this was like your formal training. You studied under these guys, and then from what I understand, when you were like, and I go back to being 18, you got your first professional gig. Now, what were you do? Like, what was the job?
Okay. Well, as I mentioned, I had just to set up the story, I had some medical issues. I was born with a kidney disease.
Ooh.
I've actually had 2 kidney transplants, and my first one happened at 18. Originally, I was supposed to go study at the School of Visual Arts.
Right.
But due to my illness at the time and having the transplant, I had to be close to the hospital. which I had the transplant over in Valhalla,
Mhm.
and I decided to, go to Westchester Community College.
Right.
I took classes on campus, and I took classes at that time. We're going back to 1994.
Right.
They just opened a location in Peekskill.
Mm.
And it was this beautiful, like digital art, workshop area. And it was really nice. And I think I was the first semester that they opened it, or maybe it was the second semester, whatever. But somebody got an advertisement in the mail
Right.
for WCC's Peekskill art program.
Mm.
And they said, hey, you know what? They're teaching the software I know. Let me see if I can find some cheap labor, basically, is what he was doing.
Right.
And he came in and he saw the work that I was doing. And at the time, the program I don't think exists anymore. I haven't heard anybody use it. It was called Director. And they used to make games in there like Myst and things like that. I don't know if you guys remember Myst.
No. Do you?
No.
Yeah. No.
Mist?
No, Myth.
Oh, no.
No.
Myst. MIST, I think it was.
Yeah.
Spelled.
Mist.
It was a decent game. I'm not really a big gamer.
Yeah. No, me neither. That's
I always
the thing.
preferred the art end of the stuff. Like I enjoyed watching people play. I was never big on playing games.
Right.
But anyway, he comes in, he looked at my portfolio. Now, Director was used to make interactive presentations, used to make games. It was basically what became Flash, or now Adobe Animate.
Right.
But it, like Flash kind of took over what Director did.
Mhm.
But also at the same time, PowerPoint was taking over what Director was doing with the interactivity, because it was so much easier to use PowerPoint.
Right. Yeah.
But I always wanted to be an animator. So while I'm in school learning how to program presentations, I decided I'm going to start animating in this program. So I made my own little, I didn't realize I was making a little game. I was making little buttons that, have a character in mind, stand there,
Right.
and then you press on him, and then
move.
he'll walk somewhere else.
Right.
And then you click on a couple of, so I was making a game, really. I didn't even realize I was doing that. I just wanted to animate something.
Yeah.
But my class project dealt with interactivity.
Right.
So I just made interactive cartoons. That's what I thought I was doing.
That's amazing.
So this guy comes and he sees my portfolio. He sees what I'm doing. He's like, I'd like to hire you as an intern. And I said, okay.
Right.
And I worked for him very short as an intern. He's like, no, I think the work you're doing, you deserve to be paid.
Wow.
So he started me, I believe, at like $10 an hour. And I started off as a concept artist.
Right.
And I did that for a few months. And we're talking like end of November. I met him and I started working with him. By right before my 19th birthday, which is in February, he said, I want to move you to animator. And still do concept work, but help with animation, because I knew Director
Right.
so well.
Yeah.
And so I started animating. So I'd make these characters. We'd build them in a 3D program. At the time, it was called Infinity, which I don't think exists no more, but it was such a great program.
Wow, that's cool, man.
Any of you know about that?
No, I remember because I took a couple of classes at the School of Visual Arts myself, and I remember. I mean, when I went there, we were using Maya by then. By then, Maya was the program we were
Maya,
using.
I used to know.
Yeah, but
I used to know that.
but I've never heard of Infinity. That's cool. So go ahead. So continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No. Anyway, so I would design the characters on paper, scan them into the computer, use them as reference to build 3D models. If that was, sometimes I built the 3D models, but it was usually someone else's job.
Right.
And then I would take these 3D models that we would animate in Infinity and give it some kind of motion. Then take those like clips and bring them into Director,
Jeez.
and then program what this would do.
Now, how long would something like that take you?
It honestly depends on the character. I've
Right.
always been fast. One of the things with
Okay.
cartooning, it lends itself to speed.
Mm.
And the more you know, the only person I've ever seen draw faster than me, and I don't want to compare it and say I'm this great
Right.
artist and can draw super fast, but I remember watching video clips of Sergio Aragonés, who's like my all-time
Sergio.
favorite. This guy is like the speediest cartoonist.
Right.
But I've drawn in front of people and they get shocked at how fast just the quick concept, like how I can get the illustration down.
Right.
And you know, I still draw fast, and I think that comes from, you know, my animation background, though, because I'm used to thinking of movement and not just here's the comic pose if I'm illustrating a comic, and here's the superhero in a pose. It's I got to think about how the body moves, and I'm about getting that gesture really quick, you know?
Yeah. And that's probably one of the hardest things, I think, for artists sometimes, is to get the anatomy right, alongside with like the action lines of the body. So like, do you start with action lines when you start drawing a character, like, or do you do like, you know, you start with the circles, or what's your process? Because you said your speed, like your speed is something that's different. So what makes you so fast?
You know what? I don't know. It depends on the character that I'm drawing. Usually I'll start with like a head where I want the head, and then I'll draw a line of action.
Right.
But cartooning is, you know, and whether you're drawing superheroes or like Calvin and Hobbes style stuff, you know, or animating something,
right,
it's all about understanding shapes and how things are made up as shapes.
Gotcha.
So any cartooning book you pick up, they'll be like, you have a circle, you have a triangle, and you have a square.
Right.
If you can draw those three shapes, you can draw anything.
Yeah.
So I think I've trained my eye enough to see the world in shape that I can break it down.
Right.
And when it comes to drawing people, I think I've done enough life drawing and you know, just studied anatomy. So I've taken a bunch of life drawing classes throughout college.
Right.
I still observe people, but I also like to keep my work simple. I don't go into crazy detail, even when I'm doing like super heroic characters. I look at like the Alex Toth method, who, you know, he was the creator of Space Ghost for Hanna-Barbera and stuff, and all those superheroes. He designed their look, and he comes from the less is more theory.
Right.
And that's how I've always thought. I don't think you need crazy amount of detail to make something look good.
Right.
You know, if you look at artists like Stephen Rood, you know, Steve Rood stuff, he's got that simplistic look to it, but it's beautiful, and until he colors it or paints it or whatever is done to it, it's just a simple looking illustration. I'm not saying what he does is simple at all.
Right. Yeah. No,
because
absolutely.
He's like, wow, he's one of my favorite artists just to look at.
But isn't that amazing that those are the kind, like those people, the ones that make it look easy, you know, those are the people that are great. Like when you can make it look easy, you're like, holy cow, how do you do that? Like that's.
Yeah. And you know what, and with both of them, well, I don't know too much about Toth's background, but I know, Steve has a fine arts background. I don't have much of a fine arts background.
Yeah.
So I always kind of feel like my anatomy isn't always perfect, or something could be better. I mean, I understand how to paint with acrylics and oils, and what I don't like oils, but like, you know, watercolor, I love color pencil. I know how to use the medium, like the different mediums.
Sure.
But my drawing has always been cartoony. You know, I don't do realism.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You prefer the cartoony looks.
Yeah.
Did you so after that, I mean, if we fast forward to like after that first gig, what was your first animation job? Like where was that?
Well, after that one, it was some freelance work I did. I cannot remember the company right now. I freelanced. It was that we're going back maybe 97, and I worked as like I came in as to do more graphic design work for the company, but you know, I love animation, so I was hanging out with the animators and stuff, and they eventually asked me to help out, and I learned from animators, you know, like pro animators who were now doing internet animation at the time, stuff for like, you know, simple websites, making, you know, I guess they were animated GIFs at the time, and little like experiments with you know, animation on the web back then.
Right.
So I got to learn from a couple of pros, but it was so long ago, and I wasn't there long that to even remember who they were or anything, and I feel bad about that. But but I did have that training. I got program training in school. I
Right.
didn't get actual animation training. I consider myself a self-taught animator.
Right.
And to this day, I still think there are things I can learn or would love to just take a formal class just to
Right.
enhance
Yeah.
what I do now.
Yeah, no, totally, totally. I do want to talk to you about a few more things, Michael, and I know we're
Yeah.
running against the clock here, but tell me a little bit about a simple guide to storytelling. Because when we were talking the other day, I thought that was very, very interesting. Tell us a little bit about what that is.
Simple Guide to Storytelling is an app I created that's on both the iOS and Android. There's a little issue with the Android right now, but I'm in the process of trying to fix that. But I've always loved comics. I've drawn comics. I've taught a lot, just as equal to my, almost as long as I've been working as a professional artist, I've been working as an educator as well.
Right.
And I've taught storytelling for years. I even helped develop some storytelling classes for a couple of colleges.
Mhm.
And one college I was working at in particular, we redesigned the class and it became a storytelling class. And I added this component of comic, of how to make a comic strip. Because the end game was always to do a storyboard. So it was like, learn to make a comic. Can you tell me a story in 3 or 4 panels? Then let's expand it into a storyboard. So all this stuff that I traveled, because I traveled to schools and libraries and stuff and talked to kids on how to make comics, I eventually decided I'm going to write a book. And there's so many books out there. And I thought, you know what? Kids aren't really reading. I see that in schools, unfortunately. To them, it's a punishment, which is sad.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
but like, if you tell them, oh, it's time to read, they get upset.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. So I'm like, I don't want to deal with people not wanting to buy my book because kids don't like to read right now.
Yeah.
So I said, let me make an app. Everyone's on some kind of mobile device, whether it's your tablet, a phone, or whatever.
Right.
So I said, let me take what I've done throughout all my time teaching how to make comics or how to just tell stories, and let me simplify it into something that maybe 8 or 9-year-olds could understand. So it's really a basic wording.
Right.
And what I do is I explain how the panels work. What is the job of each panel when you're working either in a story strip or in a humor strip?
Right.
And then what you end up doing is there's a story generator. So it gives you things like your character, your location, is the character a human, an animal, the age, props, all this stuff. And then it's 2 rounds. You take a regular sheet of paper, you fold it in 4s. Round 1 defaults to 5 minutes, but you can always change the time.
Yeah.
Round 2 defaults to 15 minutes, but you can change it to give you more time or less time to challenge yourself. And in round 1, what you're supposed to do is just take notes. Based on what the story generator gave you, you take notes in each. So if panel 1, let's say we're doing a story strip, panel 1 is introduced. So where are you? What time of day is it? All that stuff. Just make notes on it. It could be bullet points, doesn't matter.
Right.
Panel 2 would be to set up the scene. What's going on. All right, like set up the problem. Okay. Panel 3 would be, this is where your climax comes. Where's the major battle happening?
Right.
If it is a battle, it could be, hey, I need to make breakfast and I'm out of milk. What do I do?
Right.
Right.
That's your
and then the
your
last-
conflict, in other words, like the conflict.
Yeah,
is,
exactly. What's your conflict? And then your last one is your resolution.
Right.
And so that would be the 4-panel setup for a story strip. And then in round 2, you get to draw. You take another sheet of paper, you fold it in 4s, and then you draw it as a comic.
That's
But if you don't want to draw it as a comic, you just take each panel and write a paragraph in there now. And now you got a 4-paragraph short story.
Right. Wow. And I like the fact that you're combining the phone with actual pen and paper. So like you're doing both things. It's not just like you do it all on the phone. You kind of like combine the two mediums in a sense.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I want that. I don't
Right.
want people to forget how to use the pencil and paper. I've done a
Yeah.
lot of teaching. like I said, and I talk to so many people today, and they say, I can't draw on paper. I need a tablet. I need my iPad.
Yeah.
Well, if you could draw on your iPad, you can draw on a piece of paper. The
Right.
only difference is you don't have that undo button.
Right.
And I said,
Yep.
that's what it is. You don't like
Yeah.
that you don't have an undo button, or they'll use
Yeah.
a lot of apps, and I don't know if people are still using it, but there was a software called Paint Tool Sci
Mhm.
a while back,
Right.
and it has this tool, this feature. I mean, in Photoshop, high-end programs have it too, but it's I don't remember the term, but it's a steadier.
Right.
So you could turn it on at a certain at a certain level, so that as you draw, your line stays straighter, or you get that perfect curve or something, and that's what people are using.
Right.
So if it doesn't come out right because they can't draw a circle properly, which is, by the way, the first thing I teach.
Circles.
Well, actually, second thing, the first thing I teach is how the arm actually works when
Oh,
you're
wow.
drawing.
Awesome.
Because nobody teaches that in schools. I've
Yeah.
been in college
You're right.
classes, high school, whatever, and when I explain how your arm works, everybody's just shocked.
Wow. See,
You know?
it's funny because I've never heard that. Like that, you're the first person I ever hear how the arm works. You never even think about that. Like that's very important.
Thank you. I feel it is. I mean,
Yeah, right?
you're going to
Like,
draw
think
differently.
about
and
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the first thing I do is this is how your arm works. The second thing I do with the class is this is how we make circles.
Right.
Yeah. And it's then I feel that's important because a lot of places aren't teaching even how to sketch properly
No.
anymore,
You're right.
or not even. I don't want to say properly. They're not
Right.
teaching how to sketch.
How to sketch, right?
Yeah.
But and the whole traveling educator. So now I'm gonna go into October 5th, Michael, because this was very exciting, it's not even. I mean, I'm sure for you, but October 5th. What's October 5th for those that don't know?
October 5th is Michael Grassia Day in Westchester County.
In Westchester County. Oh, I thought
Yes,
it was just like in
Westchester
Mount
County.
Vernon. Like it's in Westchester
No.
County. Wow.
No. I got a proclamation from the Westchester Board of Legislators that October 5th, 2019, was beginning of I don't want to say beginning,
Right.
but Michael Grassia Day in Westchester County.
That's freaking awesome. Okay, so how did you get this distinction though? What did you do to get it? And this, I think this is the important part too.
So I went to I went and did the Mount Vernon Public Library Comic Expo, and I did it the first year. This was their third year. Last year I couldn't do it for some reason. I think I had another commitment, but they told me before we'd like to present you with an award, and I said thank you very much. I'm actually honored. I'm I don't do what I do for any type of awards or anything,
Right.
but it's always nice to be recognized. So I said thank you, and I said, by the way, what's the award for? They said, well, it's for your dedication to the arts and art education.
Right.
So
Wow.
I get there, and we're starting the ceremony, and I'm up there with a couple of other people who are getting awards. And before they present us with this award, they go on and say how a friend of mine and myself, we both are having a day named after us in Westchester.
That's incredible, dude.
And my mouth dropped. I had no clue this was happening. I knew about the little plaque that I don't want to call it little, it's a nice
Right.
decent sized
No,
plaque
yeah,
they were
I've
giving
seen
me.
the photos. Oh, that was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I get this proclamation, and I'm like, oh my God. So I got to tell you right now, I don't remember 100% what I said as a thank you, because I was kind of in shock. And I still am, because
Right.
it is something kind of special. I
Absolutely.
never thought I'd have this. It's something that you always kind of joke with your friends and family. There should be a day named after me or something. I should have my own day. And you never think it's going to happen. It's just BS talk with your friends.
Right. Yeah, of course.
And all of a sudden this happens, and I'm like, oh my God.
That's
And
amazing.
I remember that day. When it came out, my wife and I, we made sure to take a trip down to the Westchester County Center, because I was on their jumbotron, as it said, Westchester County Board of Legislators declares, October 5th, 2019, Michael Grassia Day.
Wow, that's amazing.
And I had to go there to get some photos, and then I just kind of took the day to myself. I kind of took the day off, and I just kind of vegged out in front of the TV and just drew and relaxed. You know, I don't usually get days like that, but
Yeah.
it was very nice to just do that.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Mike. I was like, when you told me that, I was like, wow, you got a day named after you. That's incredible. And then
Thank you.
we're running against the clock, but I do
Yeah.
want you to tell us a little bit about Incredicon, and then we're gonna have to sign off. But Incredicon, that's a show that you produce, right?
Yeah, me and my business partner Mike Lopez, we both run Incredicon. I usually handle more of the creative side of the artwork and advertising and things like that, and he handles more of bookings and stuff. But it happens in Dutchess County. We have it in not the first one though. The next one is coming up at the Poughkeepsie Galleria, October 27th, so the Sunday before Halloween.
Oh,
It's from
sweet.
10 to 5. Some of our guests we're going to have is Joe Sinnott, who I think everyone knows, legendary, comic artist, inked over like Kirby's art back in the 60s, and all the just retired from the Spider-Man strip. When they ended that strip, he just retired. We have Greg Berg coming, who is a voice actor. He's worked on Muppet Babies and Ninja Turtles and things like that. We have a bunch of great people coming.
That's
and
awesome, dude.
Last I heard, I think between artists and vendors, we have close to 50 tables sold.
Oh, that's awesome.
Last time I checked, so it's going to be a big thing in the mall. It's gonna, and in addition to that, just to go along with the Incredicon, we also are a traveling kids section at comic book conventions happening on the East Coast mostly. We're called Incredikid.
Incredikid. Okay.
So we go with a team of people that we bring, and we give workshops and panels to kids at Comic-Con.
That's awesome. And is there the website for that for all that information? Where can they get that information, Mike?
Well, we don't have an official Incredicon website right now, but you can go on Facebook to Incredicon or Increditainment, which is the big name brand, or you can get us on Instagram or Twitter at Increditainment.
All right, perfect, Michael. Thank you so much for your time. I wish we had more time to talk, because there were so many things I definitely wanted to talk to you about. But thank you so much for your time. Definitely gotta check out that Incredicon, October 27th, and you said it's at the Poughkeepsie.
Poughkeepsie Galleria. Can I just add one more quick thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sorry. I just want to add just to not advertise, but promote my teaching. If you go to getintune.net with TOON, so getintune.net, you can find my educational workshops, and it's a website I'm building with more going to be videos and blogs about the art of cartooning.
Perfect.
So you can find me there, and on Facebook at getintune.net.
There you go. So you got a simple guide to storytelling, the app. We all got to download that. We have to check out getintune.com, and we got to check out the Incredicon on the 27th. .net. Okay, getintune.net. And then check out Incredicon on the 27th. You're the man. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
And we're definitely going to be in contact, because I definitely want to, continue chatting it up and talking shop and things of that nature. Thank you so much for coming, Michael. Appreciate you.
All right. Thank you for having me.
All right, bud. Take care.
Bye.
All right,
bye.
Medina.
Wow, I think I was expecting that one.
You forgot about that one,
forgot
right?
about that.
You forgot about that.
Oh man.
Wow, pretty fascinating story.
Dude, yeah, man.
Fascinating story.
From a little boy who was bullied to a gentleman who has a day, October 5th in Westchester County is Michael
I can't even get a
Grassia Day.
nickel.
That's right. That's how you do it. That's how
day.
you overcome bullying, baby. You get a day.
A day,
All
day
right?
by day.
He's worked very hard, and he's overcome a lot of things. But dude, he's got that app, and it's a really cool looking app. So
that's pretty fantastic.
Yeah, cool looking app. He's got the getintune.net going, and he's got the Incredicon.
Yeah.
Poughkeepsie. So yeah, he's got a lot going.
Because
on,
time restraints were there, I did want to know, how did he create the app?
Yeah.
What applications? Did he have to take any
Oh.
classes? All that stuff. Whatever.
That's a whole show, bro.
That's
I'm
a
sure.
whole show. I know. And there's so many things you can ask all
Oh,
these guests. I mean, we had, we have several guests that, we could be on forever.
Yeah.
Um,
No, but if you ever at a show and you see Michael, ask him. Go up to him, say hello. I heard you on the show. I want to know more about, whether it's the guide to storytelling or whether it's in Credicon. And that's basically what I wanted to do with this show is just expose these artists to, people who may never have heard of them and say, wow, that's out there.
Yeah.
Like this guy's teaching you how to tell stories on an app.
on an app.
It's 2019, baby.
I mean, and who doesn't love Ricochet Rabbit? it Drupal.
You love that. You love that.
Right? I mean, come on. Seriously? I mean, it's just crazy.
Oh, man.
I thought it was today's a fascinating day.
Yeah.
I think it was a good show. What do you think out there, all of you listeners and hopeful subscribers? Our goal is to get to 1,000.
That's right.
Hopefully, you can help us get to 1,000 subscribers. But we'd like to hear from you. In November, we're going to have Listener Appreciation Day. We're just going to be talking to all our fans. All our listeners. That's an opportunity for you to chat with us. It's going to be live streaming. We're going to be just shooting the breeze. What would you like for us to have as our main talking points? We're going to be ready. George and I will be on hand. Look for the date. It'll be on Facebook, but we're probably going to stream live on YouTube or Facebook. I'll put a poll.
That's right.
Let us know.
Find out what people prefer.
Yeah, find out what people prefer.
There you go.
And any final thoughts?
I think tune in next week.
Same
Friday.
bad time.
Same bad time. Same
Same
bad channel. We're gonna have Sierra Nova Comics, and that's gonna be a very interesting discussion as well. They have something similar to Comixology for the independents. So definitely tune in if you have a book that you're promoting or you want to promote and you want to sell. This may be a good venue for you.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that's it, man.
Absolutely.
You know what you got to do.
Thank you all for listening.